Okay, so I messed up the last recording because it was on stop recording. So when I hit my space bar to play the video, it just messed up. But welcome back. Like I said, hopping right into part two. Um, in that last part that I just kind of canceled the recording, I was just saying how this actually works out because before I get to any other videos or get back, I can take like an extra day to not record. So if I just bang this one out right now, you'll be seeing it ahead of time, like the next day. But it's good. Like I'm almost done. The weather changing and stuff. Then I gave a little workout story. How it's really funny when you work out, like your whole system's cleared. Because like I do my quick anime insane workout, clap, push-ups, calisthenics, weighted calisthenics, start going insane, and I just noticed I could breathe. I'm not coughing. Everything's good. And then, like, I said I did that at night, so it actually helped me sleep better. But I notice everything's fine, and then I wake up in the morning, and then, this slowly starts to come back. I haven't even made my tea and stuff yet. But anyways, with all that out of the way, I just thought I would share. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Sending out a lot of love. Did you drink your water? And I also said I think I'm going with the founders, guys. Spread the word. Spread the word. The founders. A day one founder, day two. We're going with the founder. I kind of like the Lycans, but we're going to go with the founders. I just got these twisties for like cable management on my finger right now. But yeah, we left off on Operation Fishbowl. It's here. Shout out to Wendigoon again. These are awesome. And I think I'm good. Let's head into it. Let's go.
Real world events that happened in 1962 in which the government started launching nukes into the atmosphere and detonating them essentially to see what happened. It was called Operation Fishbowl because of the shape that the nuclear cloud would take when that high in the atmosphere. Not only did this probably have disastrous consequences on the weather and environment, but the whole thing Oppenheimer was afraid of, that the nuke could light the atmosphere on fire and kill us all, not 20 years later, they were directly firing them at the atmosphere to see what would happen. So, good job, team. Archdemons and archangels is another idea that comes from Christianity. Originally, archangels were the lead warriors or chieftains of the angels, so as they were cast out of heaven, they would become archdemons. So this is just the idea of these very powerful demons and angels existing. The Philosopher's Stone is an idea that was originally put forward by Charlemagne the Great of what is now Holy Roman Empire. That's it. The Philosopher's Stone was the basis of what is known as alchemy, which is essentially converting one element into a different kind of element. This stone was something he wrote about several times in his findings, that when approaching another element could simply turn it into something else. So what ancient societies would know as magic, we would know as extreme radioactive properties or whatever have you with what theory you're following. What's interesting is the Philosopher's Stone, as it's mentioned, has never been found, although there are things similar. So it is, like I said, essentially the bedrock of what is now alchemy. My Red is Not Your Red is the once kind of novel but now overknown concept that just because I see a color one way,
Doesn't mean
you see a color
doesn't
one way.
Yeah.
We could see completely different colors, but because we've both spent our entire life thinking that something
that
was
was blue.
we both call it blue. Without
Programming.
knowing, we each see different kinds of blues. It's just that concept. Vampires, well, at first
That's exactly what it sounded like.
maybe seeming odd, it does make sense in the grander scheme of things that it's on this list. For example, take old world ideologies and think about why they believed in vampires the way they did. Things such as certain people need to be staked through the heart, or tied up, or in some cases flipped upside down in their coffin. What would the reason for that be unless they had seen something that made them think that was necessary? And it leads into this whole idea of maybe our understanding of humans in history isn't what we think it is. Aura is another setup one. It's essentially the idea that humans exude this spiritual energy around them that changes with their mood and things such as.
Yeah.
And this goes into gravitational pulls and sonic vibrations of the earth and things such as.
Certain people can see these auras, by the way, too. Like, I don't know if necessarily, like, you know what I like, how it's like conspiracy theory iceberg. I feel like some of these that like are classified under the list of conspiracy shouldn't be, because there's actually like studies that show that you have an electromagnetic field and stuff like around your body. So, and like people can see, there are certain people who can focus and slightly see it. And I even think I'm not gonna go too deep, but you know what I'm saying.
Yes. Francis Levy's handprint is interesting. I didn't know anything about this until doing the research for this video. In 1924, a man named Francis Levy was a firehouse worker who, while cleaning a window, got ordered to go away on a call. On that call, him along and 7 other crewmen died in a fire.
Oh.
After this whole event was over, someone tried to spray the window of the firehouse, and his handprint would not come off. This got to the point that they used bleach, acid, pressure washers, all of it, and it became a novelty around the town. People would come to see it. The glass company came to try to see if they could figure it out, but for whatever reason, this handprint was perfectly formed onto this window. The ending is kind of ridiculous, though. In 1944, a boy who was throwing newspapers through one and broke the window, ending the legacy. But it is odd that this handprint stayed completely unfazed by all of the removal process for 20 years. Bohemian Grove is a 2,700-acre campsite in the western United States, which has been home to several presidents such as Reagan, Nixon, etc. What's weird about Bohemian Grove is the theories that go on around it. For example, there are no pictures taken during certain commencement ceremonies, and people who have claimed to sneak in and take pictures have gotten some weird stuff from it. This all goes back to the idea of secret societies and things that happen, but essentially Bohemian Grove is a gathering place for world elites to do who knows what. Lost civilization.
What I will say about that, and if it's true, I'm assuming it is what happens to the people who takes the pictures? I wonder.
Is simply in reference to the fact there are entire societies that are known about in ancient texts, but that we just can't find. The Mayans, for example, was supposed to have 3 giant cities, and only 2 have been discovered. With our understanding and GPS satellites, it's really weird that these entire civilizations just simply can't be found.
Or they don't want to be. No, but in all seriousness, what was I going to say about them, the lost civilizations? That guy that I referenced, that I definitely think you should check out, John Levy. The reason I just recommend him so much, or like, well, in the context of lost civilizations, that dude, his videos show some shit. He has so much research on like areas and explaining because he was like an architecture student or something like that. But there's more to it. I don't know too much about his personal backstory, but his videos are in depth, and it'll show you that there's obviously been some covering up or something of lost civilizations.
Vikings are another one. Several of the sites that they talk about being set up at or where they lived have just never been discovered. This goes into conspiracies of cover-ups or of information being hidden and things such as, but it's an interesting concept that these entire worlds could just disappear. Paranormal beings is also super vague, just supernatural entities that defy the normal realm of logic. Professional sports scripted is exactly what it says. The idea that companies and elites make up what happens in the games, even if the players aren't necessarily aware of it, in order to drive revenue in the right direction, or ticket sales, or blah, 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 money, money, money. Snuff cinema in itself is not a theory, it's a real thing. It's simply the idea that people will actually take videos of people being murdered or raped or things such as and sell them on the dark web or in shady circles.
I did not know.
Most of the theory comes in is who makes these may be higher up elitists, or at least the buyers might be. So while this is a real world thing, it gets a lot more creepy when you think about who may be consuming it. Gang stalking is a phenomenon that is mostly observed in schizophrenics, but it is the idea that several mundane people are following you at any given time. So what that may mean practically is whenever you walk up to the mailbox, your neighbor looks at you. Whenever you drive to work, a car pulls up beside you and it's kind of going the same speed. And when you get to work, someone keeps glancing at you. The idea of gang stalking is that all these people are in on it and are conspiring against you for some reason. This is also seen a lot in conspiracy theorist circles, with ideas that people who know too much are being followed by essentially men in black in disguise.
Let's talk about it. I've had videos that I put up on an old channel when I make references to my old channel where people believed I was being gang stalked. Now, the reason I talk about this is because there was a day, right? There's multiple stories. There's one I have where I was with a friend who definitely believed he said, who cares about like just like having a good time or living free, like in a way where it's like you, it was, think about this. If the example I can give it is, why not act like a fool, like joking or just be like, why not just like actually just be yourself in front of someone? And if they don't like who you truly are, who cares? Like this is a person that's 1 in like 7 billion, right? And also like but it's like a complete stranger. And then it's he would always say this thing is like, you never meet the same person twice. That's what he believed, like, which is, I mean, that's just not, I feel like a lot of people understand that that's not really true. But there was this complete, he was like we were at a park and this guy was setting up a birthday party for his daughter or like his kids, and we just went to him. Like, this is what he meant by like just doing things. And we just went over to him and he was like, hey guys, blah, blah, blah. We started initiating conversation, yada yada, or well, he initiated it, but we started talking, and then we help him set it up. Then I think he invited us to stay if we wanted to, like to hang out. And mind you, after this day, my friend, he's more like family, so I'll just say my bro, he ends up leaving, right? Leaving, and I think my other bro was with us too, but I can't remember if it was all of us helping him. But it's just a park. We were just hanging out one random day, and he goes back to Florida. After he leaves, we proceed to run into that guy, that same guy. Now, this isn't gang stalking, but it's just weird. But I got gang stalking stories. We proceed to run into that guy like 7 or 8 more times. Like, across long times. Like the next one was kind of recent. Me and my one bro went home because we lived together. And we run into this dude at like Price Chopper. Then we run into this dude at our mall. Then we run into this dude at like Walmart. We run into this dude like, yo, we were like, what the hell? Months go by, don't see him, run into him again. Then don't see him a while, run into him another 5 times. When we never even, it's almost like perception too. It's almost like we never perceived of this guy in our reality. But we also let it go. Like, we forgot all about him. We thought it was just like a fun little thing that happened. But every time we see him after that, he didn't even say anything to us. He would just watch us. It was strange, bro. It was strange. Now, a gang stalking story, I would probably take too long to explain this, but you know, if you ever want me to turn these into things, just let me know down below. If you really want me to turn them into commentaries, maybe I'll put them on my second channel. But there was a story I told on an old channel that I had where people commented and were like, oh bro, you were being gang stalked, like you were getting gang stalked. So I don't know.
Experiments on humans, also super vague, but as mentioned before, with
like I said, I'm also a seer, or I have visions, so that could be another reason I get seen. I don't.
Things such as MK Ultra and experiments that we know happened in World War II, it's kind of a real thing. I guess the theory would be the extent of it or the modern application of it. Sixth extinction is the idea that there have been 5 primary extinctions in history, such as the meteor and the ice age and things like that, and we are currently on the 6th extinction, which would be man and would be a man-made issue that we created ourselves. Pseudosciences relates to old world theories, or mostly old world theories, of things such as the 4 constants in the body being science or spiritualism, things such as, and essentially where it relates to conspiracy theories is saying that there's more credit to it than has been disproved by science, and the discredit of it is simply repression. The Saturn rings theory comes from the idea that the rings...
I'm gonna pause right here and blow my nose real quick. All right, let's go.
...of Saturn were created when an asteroid collided into it some time ago, and the particles of that asteroid were simply caught in its gravitational pull and formed Saturn's rings. Where this gets creepy is thinking that Saturn, speaking in space, is not that far from us. So if something could hit it, something could hit us. Polar shift is essentially the idea that over time the Earth's magnetic poles have shifted, and this will inevitably lead to a cataclysmic event of tectonic plates smashing together and earthquakes and storms and what have you. It's essentially an end-of-the-world idea. The Large Hadron Collider is a real thing that exists in, I believe, Germany. But the entire point of it is it works as essentially a giant gun to shoot particles at each other at speeds of light. What's interesting is the last time this was done, it created a new particle called the Higgs boson. What it essentially did was prevent the machine from being used further. And I should also mention, before this firing happened, there was a shock wave that ripped through the machine, damaging it and making them take more time to repair it. A physicist theorized that since time works as a fourth dimension, that shooting two particles together at such speeds would theoretically create a black hole. But since the way time and waves work, and there's people who can explain this much better than I can, shock waves ripple backwards through time in order to prevent us from causing an event that would theoretically destroy the future version. This all has to do with the idea of time as a fourth dimension, and we just move through it linearly, although it can be manipulated.
Yeah.
Yada, yada, yada. It's really cool stuff. Look into it yourself if you like, but that's the idea.
Cool.
Oumuamua is a body of space debris that passed near our sun some years ago and was viewed from the research station of the same name in Hawaii. What was interesting is that analyzing the particles of this, it seemed to be rather homey to us. It contained carbon and things that look like Earth and stuff such as, and was probably launched after a star exploded some however many galaxies away. What's interesting is the idea that if that Earth was destroyed, and also keep in mind, this thing would have been a whole lot bigger than our Earth. If that super Earth was destroyed by its sun exploding, what means the same couldn't happen to us? The World War II Black Book was a book that was found in Berlin in 1945 that had the name of several British citizens. In fact,
I just want to ask, with all these conspiracies, what's so obsessive about the world ending? Why do they all just? Why are all these theories so so attached to the world ending? Like
thousands of them, with their names, addresses, and places of work that were essentially on a hit list, so to speak, if Germany was to win the war. What's weird about this is why the Black Book would still exist at such a point as 1945, when Germany was pushed all the way into Berlin, and the details are that it was found in a sofa somewhere in Berlin, and it couldn't have been the Reichstag, because that place was absolutely burned to the ground. So there are several theories about why this book was created, if this book is real, etc., etc. Fish rain is a phenomenon that occurs for seemingly no reason, in which various times throughout history, fish have begun to fall from the sky. Similar things have happened with rats, snakes, etc. The leading theory is that somewhere hundreds of miles away, a tornado happened that either pulled these things out of the water or off of land and threw them that far. But even then, that doesn't necessarily make sense looking at some of the specific instances it's happened. So it's just weird. Figure it out for yourself. Clinton body doubles is exactly what it says. That several times in the public, the Clintons have used body doubles at either politically challenging times or times they were under scrutiny in order to not die. The butterfly effect is a concept that mostly relates to time travel theory and things such as that one very minor change could cause a series of changes to happen afterwards that can affect the course of history. For example, if I was to simply do this video a minute longer and not leave the house, well, that could cause me to end up in a car accident that may kill me or injure me or something rather, which would change the course of history, all because of one seemingly meaningless task. This is where you hear the whole, don't go back into the past and flip over a stone, you could change world history. This is just that laid out. Ninjas are a Japanese legend of these giant human-like sort of porpoise-looking creatures that roam in the Pacific Ocean and sing sailors into their death. These are very different from mermaids, not only in their appearance, but the fact they are much, much larger. I believe up to 50 feet in some of the legends descriptions. But what's also interesting is that there are several very similar things to ninjas mentioned in Viking culture and in Indian culture and things such as, which makes it weird considering these tribes would never had contact with each other.
Oh, yeah, because it all connects, and that's super, super weird, bro. because it makes you think what's out there. You know, I still hear to this day that most of our ocean is unexplored, and is it unexplored due to pressure or the things that I tell us, or the things that I tell us? That was weird to say. The things that we tell. Guys, sorry, it's been a morning. Recoup. Are they unexplored because of the things that they tell us? You know, I used to ask to myself too, why shoot for space and not shoot for the depths of the ocean? Why not try to discover what's out there? It's so vast. It's like, I'd just be saying, like, these ninjas, it's crazy that they're found in multiple cultures that never had any contact with each other. And look at the shape of them, bro. Like, someone's seen that shit in the water? Like, it could have been, they, you know, also I know that depictions end up like this because sort of like how dragons are depicted and what they actually were. Like, people seeing like certain creatures as dragons, but still, who's to say dragons never existed? But going back to the ninjas is like, look at how big that thing is in the picture. But do you see how it's like that? Imagine what like sea creature they actually were saying ninjas were, if it was just a like they were just alluding to something that is real, and this was kind of like the mythical supernatural kind of translation of it. This is the way I could put it to make me understand. Like, this is basically how it was put on paper. Like, yeah. Sort of how like Slenderman was born from like some other shit that explained the disappearance of kids, like that thing.
So, the Patterson-Gimlin massacre is in reference to the Patterson-Gimlin tapes. For those that don't know, it is the very famous video or supposed first sighting of Bigfoot. If you watch the entire tape, at the beginning there seems to be something on the ground that appears as a pool of blood, and the men in the video are washing blood off of their hands. The idea of this being that these people were up there hunting for Bigfoot and simply started taking the video as the last one was leaving or walking around the campground. This leads into the idea among Bigfoot hunters that the reason we don't see them is that they were hunted out by people, and what we're seemingly watching here is the last group near the public eye being massacred. When I mentioned at the beginning, there are things that can get me kicked off of YouTube immediately. This is what I was referring to. So feel free to look it up in your own time. I'm going to be very light with it. The Houdin Plan was an idea imagined by anthropologist Edward Houdin, which essentially said after World War II they needed to do something about the Germans, and the best thing to do was something called the Great Replacement Theory. And I'm going to stop talking there and you can figure it out for yourself. The oil pit squid,
I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to say that sounds crazy.
Was discovered in Indiana, in which while cultivating an oil source, there was an 8 to 12 inch squid that popped out. And supposedly this has happened more than once by oil crews in the area. This makes absolutely no sense because the squid shouldn't be able to survive in oil. And why is it in the middle of landlocked Indiana? A lot of the information I found on this related back to the hollow earth idea. Regardless of what your theory is on it, it's very weird that this thing exists at all. And then lastly, I'm going to get into the two most interesting theories that I found on this tier, and I believe that they're interconnected to each other. The first is the people of the mount theory. The background of it essentially works like this. In the 1820s, there was an animal researcher who was trying to figure out why lemurs existed in some parts of the world and not others, and seemingly skip giant areas. This was one of the first groundworks that led to the idea of Pangea, and that all of the continents were originally pushed together. However, even going off of Pangea, that would mean there was a giant portion of land that just doesn't exist anymore, with the idea being whenever the plate shifted, it simply sank below water. The name of this unidentified continent was called Lemuria. Get it? Lemuria. Near the coast of where this supposed Lemuria is supposed to be is an area known as Mount Shasta. Locals have...
Oh, does this refer to the Lemurians? I actually... Now I'm getting where this comes from. Okay.
Said that at night you can see people leaving in robes. And these people are tall, like much taller than any person can be, 9 to 10 feet. Supposedly beneath Mount Shasta is a completely hollow ground, and then the survivors of this Lemuria sought it for shelter and have lived under there, untouched by society ever since. In 1904, a researcher went to Mount Shasta and said he found miles and miles of underground caves full of gold and silver and crystals and things such as, but whenever he put together a team to go research it, he disappeared, which is weird. Most of what I found on Lemurians and the people of the Mount, again, relates back to Hollow Earth theory, which is why I think that was mentioned so much in this stage. But the idea that there is this untouched race of people existing in underground caves in the modern times. This also relates to something else on this tier, which is crystal skulls. There are 13 perfectly made crystal skulls that have been found variously around the world, but what's odd about them is while they're all made exactly the same, no one can place where they came from. They were each recovered from different dig sites and seem to have the same properties as one another, yet no one really knows where they came from. And every accusation where they came from, such as pre-Columbia or Spain or whatever, has been proved false. According to the legend surrounding these skulls, though, they supposedly contain energy. Anyone who touches the skull or comes into contact with it shares their memories with it, and then that is passed on to the next handler, and so on and so forth. What's interesting about this is part of what the researcher mentioned who got lost in the Mount Shasta cave in 1904 is that they communicated using crystals. When I was reading this for this tier, keep in mind these are two different theories, I thought it was wild that these crystals that Lemurians have to supposedly communicate with each other seem to be the same things that these skulls were that supposedly communicate with each other, and no one knew where the skulls came from, and it related back to Lemurian. Again, to clarify, I don't believe in this, I think it's neat. So to encompass this whole theory together, especially with other stuff seen in the tier, that would mean that the Lemurians did go underground but found either the Agartha beneath Earth, or at least hidden passageways that work all the way under Earth, and there is an entire civilization of humanity existing apart from ourselves underground, and periodically their belongings, such as these crystal skulls, are found in other parts of the world. So there's my huge headcanon for secret underground mole people. And
Don't know what I'll say about that one, but I think I'm just gonna leave that. Just finish this off.
And that will do it for tier 2. This was a long one. They only get longer. Like I said before, we are still on tier 2 of 10. They only get crazier from here. Most of the ones I talked about now are still conceivable. Like I can tell you the words and you can understand what I'm saying. As we get into later ones, you're just going to have to bear with me and try to figure out what nonsense I'm talking. But as always,
I will try to assist if I can in any way. Maybe make some sense of it. Maybe that's why you guys want me to watch it, because maybe some...
And as mentioned before, thank you for watching. The first video did absolutely fantastic. As a matter of fact, it is my most highly ranked video on the channel for the time that it's been out, which is amazing. So thank you all for that. It gave me like 25 subs too, which for me at this point is a big deal. So again, thank you. Thank you to all my patrons, but a special thank you to my top tier patrons. Thank you, Kayla. Thank you, Peth. Thank you, Eddie. Thank you, Benjamin. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Publius.
He's just thanking them, but yo, these are insane, because like I've heard a lot of these. It's insane, and I didn't even go digging for them. Like somehow I've stumbled upon them, almost as if it's literally fate that you stumble upon certain things like this. Especially the ones at the end that he said could get him, like, you know, if he goes any more in depth with, they could get him like that. That's insane, bro. Oh my gosh. Again, I'm gonna say in this video, look out for my Lunar's Lost Treasures, the next one that's gonna come out, because it's gonna be called Everything is Connected. I'm definitely gonna put this out there and just like not talk about it. It's so I actually do it. But yeah, that's insane, bro. I want to comment on like the last one, the very last one, but I'm gonna leave it alone. You know, I'm gonna follow his lead for these things, because again, I just want to make entertaining videos for people. I don't have any interest in same like him, like just sharing stuff like this is enjoyable for him. I love watching it and giving my comments on stuff, so it's like I have no malicious intent and wanting to get my channel taken down. So other than that, yeah, I think I'm going to rest. I'm actually tired. I banged out this back to back, so sorry if I didn't make too many comments getting towards the end. Again, he covered that one part that I don't know if we'll talk about, but like before that, I think I want to look up that one. You know which one at 30:46. I'm even scared to say it a little bit. Read it out loud. I know you did, but I feel like I shouldn't. But other than that, all these were cool. Definitely cool. I've heard of the ninjas. Well, I've heard a lot on this list, but I heard of the ninjas, and that one's an interesting thing that I'm just gonna look into a little bit for myself. I just kind of want to look at it. I think the ocean's like fascinating, and I really think that it should be covered a lot more. Like there has to be more to it. Dude, I want to go on and watch part 3, man. I could watch these all day long to myself, but I know you guys will enjoy watching them alongside, so I'll hold back. I will hold back. Much love and moonlight to you guys. I will see you in the next one. Love you guys. Peace out.